An annual summer tradition, Kent of Casual Big Ten is here, not just to talk about Michigan State's over-under, which, of course, we're excited to hear his opinion on. But, guys, it's financial decision time. We go across the Big Ten, our three best bets for over-unders. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On Spartans. It's your team in green and white right here in the Locked On Podcast Network. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below. Not just your thought on Michigan State's over-under win total of 5.5, but guys, we're going to go across the Big Ten. Me and this strapping gentleman over here, his name is Kent of Casual Big Ten. We're going to drop our three best bets, and I got to say, this isn't legal advice. I'm sure a lawyer is going to contact me right after we announce this, but this is a fruitful episode year in and year out, Ken. I think we've done this for 3, maybe 4 seasons, and do we get everything right on this episode? No. Do we get everything right on Locked On Spartans? No, we don't. But my God, our hit rate for our three best bets of the Big Ten, it's better than NVIDIA stock at this point. We are just through the moon. So, but before we get into the rest of the Big Ten, Kent, the listeners know my thoughts on this. Michigan State, for seemingly the 15th year in a row, their over-under's 5.5. It could be the green tint in my eyes. It could be that the schedule is easier than last year. It could be that the offense has been retooled. It could be the fact that, hey, the pass rush possibly can't get worse than last year. So I'm on the over side. That should surprise no one. But Ken, you're down the middle. You are the purveyor of all things Big Ten. What say you? What say you?
I'm going right with you. I am also on the over side. And here, look, you talked about the past a little bit. This is the third year in a row. I've been keeping track. Okay. This will be 3-0 for me if I get this one right, I believe. So, 2 years ago I said under. Last year I said confidently over. And when we did it last year, it was a little bit earlier, so the line moved a little bit. I think it went from 4.5 up to right even at 5.
Yep.
So, but when we did it though, I was still right. So I'm good with that. But yeah, I'm right here on the over, man. I think that, we're looking at a solid 6 wins with a possibility for 7 even. So I think that, when you look at this line, it's minus 140 right now for the over. So I think that, Vegas is kind of talking to us right now saying that that's where it's going to be. And you're really taking a risk if you're taking the under this year for the Spartans.
Where does the confidence lie the most with you right now? Because I just mentioned a few things look, we've had a lot of episodes talking about the offense. It's been retooled. The offensive line has depth. Aiden Childs, second year as a full-time starter. They got Nick Marsh back. They got good receivers. They can actually, run speedy routes, which is pretty nice. That's not to, slight last year's guys. They were talented in their own right. But the offense is more speed-oriented here, and they got that with Christian McCray, Omari Kelly. I kid, but I also don't kid about the pass rush only being better last year. We all remember those infamous graphics last year. 6th game in a row without a sack. It set an FBS record for the last quarter century. Not a great time. But I got to go immediately just to the schedule, and let me just level set here. We're talking about an over-under of 5.5. I'm not saying the schedule is going to be paving a road for a 10-2 season, but you can have 6 hiccups, and nowhere on this schedule are back-to-back games, Ohio State and Oregon. 6 days apart like they were last year. Yes, you get Michigan. That's going to be a pretty tough game, guys, but you get that at home. I'm not going to go as far as saying, hey, Penn State is in our sights, but at least that's off of a bye week where I'm trying to say, your hardest game at least has a caveat of the bonus of a bye ahead of it, whereas last year, you could have chiseled those 2 losses against Ohio State and Oregon into stone and be correct. So at least in every single one of these games, you're going to have at least a shot. Right? So that's why I go with the schedule. Is there anything that really just gets your eye with the over bet here? Is there anything on the field or is it off the field like a schedule?
For me, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but for me, it's the passing game. And I think that it's going to be so much, it was already fine last year, I thought. But if Aiden can stop making those young mistakes, I feel where he's throwing the ball into coverage and just throwing it out of bounds instead. Because you look at the offensive line, and with some of the transfers that are coming in, it concerns you more with the run game. But when you have Aiden, someone that can create his own space and get out of the pocket and make throws, as long as he's not making the dumb throws anymore into coverage, then I think that the passing game is going to improve. Because look, you got 2 out of your 3 leading receivers coming back, and then you mentioned the 2 guys that are transferring in. If one of those 2 guys is a major contributor, I think that the passing game's going to be fantastic. So that's where I lean, where I'm like, okay, the offense is going to be much improved to last year just based off that alone. And then I think you have enough coming back on defense to have a solid base, a foundation for just being serviceable. It would be fine to get you those 6 wins. So passing game first is where I look, and that gives me a lot of confidence. And then that base on defense that you have coming back is the on the field stuff. And then we can go through the schedule if you'd like to.
Absolutely, because that funnels right into where I want to take this next and this kind of goes away from the over-under win total conversation, but like just as a fan of college football, from the outside looking in, I know you're not a dyed-in-the-wool Michigan State fan, needless to say, but you are very involved in Big Ten football. So you on the outside looking in, like what game interests you the most on this Michigan State schedule? I know the chip shot here is the Michigan game. Of course, I think all Spartans can agree with that, but if you want to give like maybe a good silver medalist then behind that game, or is there one that jumps over the Michigan game? What would you give it?
So for me personally, the opener is the one that I'm most excited about because I'm going to be there. So I'm excited.
Hey, now let's go.
Yeah,
let's go.
So I went there 2 years ago for that same game, and I'm really excited to be back for that one. It's going to be awesome atmosphere. Anytime like you're there for that first game, and there's all the optimism, the excitement, is it summer? Is it fall in the air? You're tailgating and everything. I'm just excited to be there for that one. So from a personal standpoint, that's the game I'm most excited. And, it's going to set the barometer for what I think Michigan State's going to be this year. Like, are you in a dogfight with Western Michigan, or are you like just stomping them and you're going to open some eyes and be like, all right, we're going to actually go win 7 games this year? But realistically, I honestly think the very next week is the most important game. It's like make or break for this bet. Like if you have the over and you drop that Boston College game at home, I think you're in trouble. I really do. Yeah. That game hinges whether you go to 6 or whether you are at 5. I think that. So the Boston College game, I think, is the most important game. I know it's a non-conference game and I'm a Big Ten guy, but like, I think it's the most important game for this schedule. I'm hoping that there's revenge in the Spartans' hearts from last year. I thought that you guys were going to win it last year. I actually didn't think you guys played too bad in that game last year. Weather was a factor, obviously.
Big time.
And some of those things I was talking about earlier, some of the decisions that Aiden was making last year. So I hope that, like I said, it's all about revenge, and we're going to go get this game back that we probably could have and maybe should have won last year, and we get that win back at home. And that's when you're confident it's 2-0, because I do think you win the Western Michigan game, and then you win the Boston College game. You're already at 2, and you got 10 games remaining. You get those last 4. So, yeah, I think it's a really important game, Boston College.
Plenty more to come with our guy Ken of Casual Big Ten. But first, guys, Gametime, the greatest ticketing app out there. They're hooking it up all summer long because let's just say, it's a nice sunny day in Metro Detroit. The Tigers are white hot, and you want to go catch those Motor City Kitties at Comerica Park. Well, guys, hop on Gametime. They're going to have flash deals for you long before the game. Great seats in great sections at a great price. Or let's say that this is a very last-minute thing, and oh my God, the game even just started, and you're only a few blocks away. Guys, they offer last-minute ticket deals even a little bit after that first pitch. So if you're a planner, great. Get on there. Flash deals are already there. Or if you're a procrastinator, if you're a spontaneous person, well, guys, the last-minute ticket deals, like we just said, they're there for you. You will get your tickets to your phone in just 2 taps. This isn't one of the ticketing apps out there where it's 15 taps on your phone and, oh, my God, surprise fees at the end. What's going on? No, it is quite simple with Gametime, and saving money right off the bat is even simpler. Because when you make your account, you download the Gametime app, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's going to get you $20 off your first purchase. Again, guys, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase over at Gametime. You know what? Like, this echoes what we had talked about a few weeks ago, maybe even a few months ago now at this point in Locked On Spartans. But I did say, like, that Boston College game, as silly as it may sound, non-conference, it's not a marquee opponent. No disrespect to Boston College, but when you think elite college football, your mind doesn't necessarily go to Chestnut Hill quite often. But it's for everything you've said. Like, you need the revenge. You need to show that you've improved from last season, because what I said a few weeks ago as to why this might be the most important game of the season is that, yeah, sure, a win, great, awesome, especially for us overbettors. That's great. But I'm talking the psyche of the team. Mm-hmm. What you can win pales in comparison to what you would lose if you take a defeat here. Like, yeah, let's just talk about, who's not even wearing the helmets. Like, the fans, like, there's already a lack of energy around the fan base. Okay, you lose week 2 to Boston College at home. Pop the balloon very early in the season. I mean, yes, fans will still tangibly follow, but you're going to get the greater good of the fan base kind of hitting the snooze button for another year, being like, okay, just wake us up when the next regime starts. I can't have that. I can't have these players already start downing themselves in week 2 of the season. I just can't be just doing these post-game shows, just trying to rally the troops that, hey, a lot of seasons left, because that's going to fall on deaf ears. It's not going to feel like it. So, look, it's not the sexiest matchup, right? Spartans, Eagles, catch the action, but
but it is important, though.
It's going to mean a lot, because, isn't it, man? I mean, I know.
Like I said, it could be the difference. Like, when you're looking at last season, okay, that was the difference between a bowl and not a bowl, and it could be the same thing this year. So, I think it's massively important to get that win, like you said, even though it's non-conference, not Big Ten, but realistically, it's more important almost than a Big Ten game, because, like you said, let's be honest, you're not competing for the conference this year. Like, you're not going to go win the conference, I don't think, this year. Mm-hmm. So the Big Ten games are important to get to those 6 wins and start building what you want to be, get those 6, 7, 8 wins maybe. But if you don't get that one, you're not getting there. It's not going to happen. Like you said, it just really deflates everything that you're working for right off the rip, like the second week of the season. So it's really important. But I do have 2 other games that I think are that could be the swing games for whether you win this bet or not. And for me, it's going to be Minnesota and then at Iowa. And I say at Iowa because you look at that on the schedule and you're like, okay, Iowa's always tough. They're really tough at home. What happened last year, though? It's like you guys came out against Iowa, and it was just like, oh, we're the best team immediately. And it's like, I don't even know what Michigan State team I'm watching right now. It made me question all of reality when I was watching that game. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, if they do that again this year, maybe they can go on the road and beat Iowa. So that's a swing game. And then the Minnesota game, who they're in a similar position, at least quarterback-wise, that you guys were in last year. So I think that there could be some struggles up in Minnesota, and that's a spot where you can steal a win, I believe, too. And that's what would get you to 6 with Western, Boston College, and the 3 openers. And then I think UCLA at home's fine. I'm going to talk about Maryland a little bit more in just a second. So I gave that a win for sure. So that's the 5 guarantees. And then you just got to win one of those, Minnesota or at Iowa, and then you're at 6. So that's where I see the over hitting.
The Iowa game last year, I know I've said it maybe once or twice on the show before, that was a great win last year. Yeah. Arguably, maybe not even arguably, the best win Michigan State had this season. And now that we're months removed from that game, that game actually annoys me. Where the hell was that the rest of the season? Where we totally could do that for the rest of the year. Yeah. So run the ball with confidence. Anyway, it was
one of those games for me too. You watch so many Big Ten games when you're doing the stuff that I'm trying to do. Yeah, right. It's one of those games where I can vividly remember where I was at, what my mind was doing. I was like, what am I watching right now? This is crazy.
Yeah, just pumping the rock at 6 yards a carry as if that hasn't been an issue insane. All season. I mean, Nick Marsh just becoming a behemoth, which we saw that throughout the season. But, oh, man, under the bright lights on NBC, all for it to just go up into ash when the clock hits 0.
But it gave you hope for what it could be this year, though.
And, there we go. And that's the most dangerous thing you could have right now in the offseason. Hope. That's what I'm talking about. All right, Ken, let's break it down here. Let's line these people's pockets with some cash here because, we do this every year. It's our 3 best over-under bets for around the Big Ten. And I'll just go ahead. I'll get out of the way right now. I'll bat first right now. I got Penn State under 10.5, which I got to say, throughout the entire offseason, I was like, I think they're going to go over. They're going to be top 5 the entire season. I think they're going to be maybe odds on favorite eventually during the season to win the national title. And then just Penn State creeps into my mind. The home games, It's fine enough. It's Nevada, FIU, Villanova, which this is one of my favorite tri-annual traditions. Every 3 years, I'm reminded that Villanova has a football team because Penn State schedules them every third or fourth year, seemingly. And then also at home, Oregon, an amazing game. Northwestern, Indiana, Nebraska. On the road, UCLA, Iowa, Ohio State, MSU, and then Rutgers. What I'm worried about, I got 3 things that I'm worried about. It's the Ohio State game on the road. I just can't believe they'll win that game until I actually see it. I apologize for having that elementary of a take, but truly, I'm not going to believe they could win in Columbus until I actually see it. Oregon at home. It's not just that, though, but it's no bye week immediately after they got to fly to UCLA, which isn't the scariest team, but cross-country, off of an emotional game against Oregon. And then at Iowa is the third game that I'm scared about, too. Again, Iowa's not some behemoth. They're not going to throw up 40 points a game, but I feel like I've just seen this time and time again. Maybe this is a night game. It's going to be at Kinnick. They've snake-bitten a lot of teams here. So you're already going to have one loss against Ohio State, I believe. And then that tightrope gets pretty thin when just one more loss to get to 10-2. Sure, it gets them in the playoff, but I don't think it gets them to over 10.5. So that's where I'm going to start my financial advice, Kent.
This is strange for us. We're usually right together on this, but I also have Penn State listed as one of mine. I went over. This is the only one that I took plus money on. It's plus 110 right now. So it is a risk that I'm taking, but the way that I looked at it was I think you're right about the Ohio State game, but I think that's the one. For Oregon, it's their 4th game consecutively at home if you're Penn State.
Yes.
It's cross country for Oregon. It's a little bit of a newer team for Oregon, and it's early in the season. So that's what gives me, I think I got a little confidence with Penn State on that one. So they win that game, and then they lose the Ohio State game, and then I basically just did what, I feel like everybody's doing right now. I just marked everything else as a win because they're so good. They're so talented. They have so much returning. Their defense is so strong, and I just felt like everything else. I don't think, even though some of the other teams are good that you're mentioning, it's at Iowa. That's a scary place. You're right. Even Indiana coming to Penn State. It's like, if they're going to be what they were last year, that's going to be a tough game again.
Yep.
But I still think that Penn State's, all the veterans that they have, the coaching that they have, everything that they have coming back and already having that playoff experience, it's time for them to say, okay, this is our year now. I've been saying that for 2 years.
Yeah, I know.
The last 2 seasons. So this is the 3rd season in a row I've been saying that with that backfield, that quarterback, that offensive line, everything that they have. But I'm going to do it again. So I'm going Penn State over the 10.5, and I think they might lose one game, but there's still a chance they can go undefeated, I think.
Are you still, because I think we had this conversation last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but are you a Drew Allar disciple? Because last offseason, I thought he was the real deal. And I'm not saying he's a scrub, he's a bum. They should have got another, quarterback in the transfer portal. I think he's good, but I don't think he's hitting his 5-star ceiling that he had necessarily. Are you more sold on Drew Allar, though? Do you believe that he is the guy to take Penn State to that next level?
I am. I have been since his freshman year. Since he played sparingly his freshman year, I feel like the first time I saw him take a snap, I thought that guy was different. And I thought that his confidence, his swagger, everything that he does, the way his arm is so strong, the way he can control the offense, and then the way Penn State has him set up to take a lot of the pressure off him with the way that they run the ball. So, I've been on Drew Allar for a long time now. So I'm very confident that he's going to have a big year this year. I think he gets a little bit of the, this name is anti-religious or whatever you want to say on this podcast. So he gets a little bit of the JJ McCarthy treatment though, where he's on a good team and he doesn't do everything. So he's not superstar guy. And so he's kind of overlooked. And I just think he's great. I think he's been great since he's been there. And I think he's going to have a massive year.
The next 2, I hate myself for. Ken, we all have this, we're talking human to human now. This isn't even college football at this point, but we all have things about ourselves that we just don't like, right? You look in the mirror and you're just a little ashamed that that's part of you, just as a human, because I have many, of course, but I don't think anything headlines the list brighter than this right here. And it's, I can't believe I'm going to admit this out loud. I might start tearing up. I can't stop believing in Nebraska every single
man.
GD year. I can't stop. I cannot physically stop every single offseason drinking the Kool-Aid that is coming out of Lincoln. I'm going over 7.5 for the Huskers this year. And let me explain to you why, Kent. Let me just go ahead like a sick, ill person in the head for seemingly the 10th offseason, telling you why I'm going to go over here. This home schedule for the Huskers, this is pretty good here. They open at Arrowhead against Cincinnati. Okay, great, love it, awesome. You get Akron, Houston Christian, Michigan, which could be a coin toss game since it's going to be at Nebraska, Michigan State. Do our Spartans have a fighting chance in this? Yes, I still think Nebraska possibly wins this one. They will be favored in it. And then Northwestern, USC, and Iowa. That means they only have on the road Maryland, Minnesota, USC, Penn State. Now, the tough games, Penn State, we'll call it USC. Minnesota, I think, will be a tough game. Michigan's going to be a tough game. We'll call our Michigan State Spartans a tough game, too. Why not? But I think that they can get over 7.5. They got better at wideout. They got better on offensive line in the offseason. Dana Holgerson is their offensive coordinator. Matt Rule going into year 3 at a program, and that is where they thrive traditionally under Matt Rule. Do I need to check myself into a facility, Kent?
No.
Just tell me as a friend. Okay, no.
No.
An enabler he is. Okay.
First team I looked at when I got the DM from you was Nebraska. And it's also the first team that I promised myself I wasn't going to buy into. Everything you just said at the beginning. I can't do it again. I just can't do it. I know. I do it
but
every year. I'm like, there's 8 wins right there. There's 9 wins. Like, this is the year. This is the year. This is the year. I just can't do it again. I can't. They every year. I lost $200 last year on the Illinois game because because I was so confident that Nebraska was going to win that game at home. Illinois pushes them to overtime and then ends up losing. Or I'm sorry, Nebraska ends up losing to Illinois. And for those reasons, I'm out. If I'm on
that was a quintessential Nebraska game too. That was a true Nebraska snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory game.
God.
Now, you could take a 0 off and divide it in half for what I lost that game. I lost a sweet $10 bill. But still, it wasn't even the money. It was just like I showed my work. I knew I had the right pick in this game.
Exactly.
You sons of guns over there just could not bring it home. But here I am yet again a few months later, just lapping up whatever dog water they're giving me like a sucker. God, I hate myself.
For me, by the way, it was about the money, but it was also about I ran my mouth on Twitter too because I was like, Nebraska's winning this game for sure. So now I have to double back and say I'm wrong. Plus my bank account's last $200 less than it was the day before. So I was not pleased.
Tough Friday night or Thursday night,
not doing it
that
again.
game was on. Yeah, I know. Oh man. So second on your portfolio of best bets.
I'm going to go with I just talked about them, so I'll mention this one next. It was going to be Oregon, and I'm taking the under on Oregon because, like I said, I do think that they lose that game at Penn State, and then you only have to lose one more and you win that bet. So they have a lot. I mean, there's a lot that they have to do this year. I know this is going to sound insane, but you have to go play on Lake Michigan against Northwestern. That's a long way to travel. That's not a fun place to play. Northwestern's not going to be good. They're still going to win that game, but it takes a toll on your season. What else do they have? They got Indiana. Obviously, I just mentioned the Penn State game. And then to end the year, they've always had trouble with Washington. And I think that a lot of people are starting to get on board with Washington right now and figuring out, oh, wait, this offense still has a guy that is really good at quarterback. They have their running back coming back. They have one of the best receivers in the conference coming back. Maybe Oregon's going to have trouble with them towards the end of the year with possibly their postseason implications on the line, and it's at Washington. So, they have a lot of games that they could potentially hiccup on, and I understand. Dan Lanning recruits very well. I think he's a slightly above average coach, and I think that he's a really good recruiter, and I know Oregon's still going to be very good, but you're asking me to have them lose one game or less this year for that over to hit. I'm going to take the under on that one.
And I know that Dante Moore is talented, of course, a 5-star from right here in Detroit, Michigan State's own backyard. Is he Oregon quarterback good? And I know that the offense is always, set up for the quarterback to do good. But, is he only going to be good? Because if that's going to be where they're at the entire year on offense, I don't think it's going to be good enough to eclipse 10.5 wins. And it is that Washington game for me, too, that is the total wild card. It's an impossible place to play for any teams, no matter how good they are. So that's why I was just staying completely off Oregon. Because what if Dante Moore is actually, very good? Okay, everything's thrown out. But I couldn't do it. But if I had to, if I was in a weird situation where I was pulled into a dark alley and someone held a gun at me and said, hey, over, under, what are you going to do, Oregon Ducks? I'd say, who are you? And then I would say under, in that order. So I do enjoy that one. Now, the last one I have, and the second reason I hate myself, this is a different genre of hate here. I don't hate myself because, I always fall for this team's trap. No, this is actually a pretty good team. But the reason I hate this pick is because every single year there always seems to be that one little cute team that all the experts and analysis are picking to go to the college football playoff. Last year, North Carolina State was that darling team. Okay, they weren't anywhere close to the picture. Maybe even Virginia Tech too. This year, the flavor of the summer is Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing them pop up a lot. Because, why not? They return the most production in the Big Ten at 76%. Okay, their home schedule, pretty good. Luke Altmaier, quarterback, also pretty good. Their road schedule is quite manageable. So I should go under. I know to go under either 7.5 or 8.5. This is a number that keeps floating up and down depending on when you open the FanDuel app. But no matter what it is, especially if it is that 7.5 number, I hate myself. I'm going over, though. I'm taking the bait. I am a mouse that sees a giant slice of cheddar cheese right there, and I'm saying, yeah, that's for me. And I'm going to get my head chopped off doing it. But you know what? We're going to go for the cheese here because the home schedule of Western Illinois, Western Michigan, USC, Ohio State, Maryland, Rutgers, Northwestern. I mean, USC, Ohio State, those are your two tough games. The road schedule is manageable, too. Duke will be good this year, but I think they could win that game. Indiana, yes, they will be good. Purdue, Washington, we just talked about that's going to be a tough place to play. And then Wisconsin, at the end of the year, too. I don't know what kind of Wisconsin team we're going to be having. But again, we're not talking an over-under of 10.5. You do have margin for error here. I'm going to go with the Fighting Brett Bielema's, man. I'm going to do it. I'm just an idiot. I know what I'm doing here. I'm falling for the trap, but...
No, I think the funny thing is we always like to focus on when all the experts are wrong, but there's a lot of times they're right too. So this might be one of those times where you're okay, everybody's saying they're going to go win 9-10 games and then they go do it and you're kicking yourself because you didn't listen to them. So if it happens, I stayed away from Illinois. It was the second team after Nebraska that I crossed off my list because I was very wrong about them last year. I just mentioned the Nebraska game that I bet on, and with their win total and everything, I was just so completely wrong about that team. I couldn't immediately switch back and go, okay, well now I think they're going to be great. Cause then if I'm wrong again, the other way, I feel like an absolute idiot 2 years in a row on the same team. I just can't do it. So, and with the number moving, like you said, at 7.5, I would feel a lot more confident. So if that happens again, I would say absolutely. That's an over bet for sure. But at 8.5, man, I think it's right at that. I think it's 8 or 9 for them. So
it gets dicey. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking at some of those like the Duke game, for example. Kind of talked about that with Michigan State, the early season non-conference game that could be a toss-up. The bet might hinge on that. So that's why it scares me. I have one last one as well, and we both went on this one last year, and we were right. I've been right 2 years in a row on this team, and I'm going back to the well. It's Coach Schiano. It's Rutgers. It's over 5.5 wins. Put it in the bet. I actually have this one listed first, but because we started talking about some of the other teams, I went out of order. This is my best bet, I believe, for the year. I love what they have coming back. First of all, Coach Schiano is not going to lose 7 games this year. He's just not going to do it. He's not going to let it happen. Okay. And he has let it happen before when he's rebuilding the team. So I'm not going to say it never happens, but it's not happening this year. They have enough coming back. I always start with a quarterback. Ethan Kalika-Manis has been playing college football since I was in college. So that was 25 years ago, I feel like. He's been there for a long time. Kid knows what he's doing. He's a veteran. And when I talk about veteran teams, that's all Rutgers has. They have 3 seniors on their offensive line. Oh, by the way, the other 2 guys, they're juniors. They have seniors in the backfield. They have seniors on defense. It's just a very veteran team that's not going to, I just think that they can get to a bowl this year. And it's something I was confident about last year, and I'm very confident about it again. They have an easy non-conference schedule. They play Purdue. I mentioned I'm going to talk about Maryland. That's going to be my last point when we get to it. They have Maryland, and then they always have that one game that I feel like they upset somebody. So I think that they're getting to 6, maybe even 7 again this year. We'll see. Maybe with a bowl win, it would be 7. But I like Rutgers over 5.5, minus 144.
I love that. Because after you just say all the experience at all those positions too, like it just seems like, the Shiano built team, tough, experienced veteran, every cliche, just throw it their way and Piscataway, and they will turn that into a nice 7-5. I don't know, first responders bowl appearance. Like, hey, who's going to, maybe a Fenway Bowl, a Wasabi Fenway Bowl appearance for you. Why don't you? So, the granddaddy of them all. So with that, I know you wanted to say something on Maryland, and as I said, like, give me your crazy take that you had for the Big Ten season.
This is going to be my crazy.
Take the kids home on this one. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
This is going to be it. All right. Here's what happens to Maryland this year. They're losing to Northern Illinois at home, first of all. Second week of the season. They're starting the year 2-5. That 7th game is at UCLA. Mike Locksley will not be making the trip back to Maryland.
Wow.
He will be getting fired mid-season. That's my hot prediction for the year. It's going to be after the UCLA loss on the road. They say, you know what? You're going to take the bus back. Team's taking the plane back. Thanks for your service. We're going to find somebody before you get back to the East Coast. Mike Locksley it's got to be time, man. It's time.
It's got to be enough eventually, right? When they send him back on the bus, is that like a private bus that is just one way, or is it a Greyhound where they're going to take like 45 stops over the course of 2.5 days? What are they going to do here?
It's that one. It's the Greyhound.
Okay,
it's the Greyhound for sure. Yeah, or he just stays out in California. He's like, hey,
that's a good point too. Why come back?
USC, you guys need an assistant? Like, I'll come be an assistant defensive backs coach for you guys. I'm not going back.
Yeah,
I'll just stay here. Go to the beach.
Analyst job or something. Yeah, like you guys need like a running back, run game analyst or something like that. I got you. Yeah, these palm trees are looking a little better than what I've got going on back at Maryland. No disrespect to Maryland. I'm sure it's a great state, but man, once you get hit with the sunshine and the palm trees in mid-October or whenever that game is, stay there. Stay there.
Yeah.
There's nothing to come back for. So, Ken, you're the best, man. Anything you want to shout out before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your week?
No, man, I just appreciate being here. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world than Locked On Spartans today. It's the only place I would want to be. Can't wait for the season opener. Hope to see everybody that's listening to this at Spartan Stadium. Tailgate, come have a drink with me. And beat Western, right?
Beat Western. Let's go. Down those Broncos. And if I'm there, I got a shot of Fireball coming your way, sir. So
let's go.
We'll see if I'm there. I'm going to try to be there. I don't have an out-of-state wedding this year like I did last year. So, hey, it could be boots on the ground in East Lansing with some cinnamon whiskey in that sweet, sweet air. All right, guys. Hey, until next time, we will be back right here, Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white. Till next time, though, hey, take care of yourselves. Love you all. Go green.